Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. I thought I'd talk today about what you need and what you don't need when you're setting up a cut flower business. There are so many things that you think, oh, I've got to have this before I start, or I've got to have that, or maybe I need this, and it can get a bit overwhelming. So let me talk you through some things that I think you don't need to have before you start. So you don't need your own land. You don't need to own a plot of land that's just for you. It's perfectly okay to rent land. And I always thought that you absolutely had to wait, until you'd retired, or wait till you got some money from somewhere, or something miraculous happened and you owned your own land. Well, it's not the case. And I have actually been to a fantastic flower grower down in the south of England. And when I asked them about their land, they said, oh, yeah, we're renting it. And it was like a huge moment for me, because I thought, well, if these guys who've got a gorgeous business and a shop and a cafe and all these flower beds can do all of that on land that they don't own, there is hope for the rest of us. So you can actually use your own garden, or you could just rent some land from somebody, or even borrow it, or even use an allotment. But you will need to check with the allotment rules whether you're allowed to sell produce from your allotment, because some of them don't let you. And a really good place to try is landowners who've got shipping containers for hire, because they're often quite enterprising landowners, and they might just have a corner of a field or an area that they don't use that could be perfect for you, and they could rent it to you. And on a really small scale, you could just grow in pots, tubs, containers. You can get really enormous containers from landscapers or from wholesale plant nurseries, the sort of sizes that you would buy mature trees in. I mean, really, really big stuff. And you could turn those twice a year. So you could put tulips and alliums and bulbs in the spring, empty them all out, put dahlias in. So that could work. The second thing you definitely don't need is qualifications. It is perfectly okay to be self-taught. It's fine to do your own research based on what you think you need to know and learn what your business requires. Stop thinking that you have to do all of these courses and know everything before you start out. There are now, luckily, thousands and thousands of online courses that you can take, and some of them are amazing. But they're not cheap. And if you do a few of them, they'll really add up. So perhaps if you're going to do one, just focus on the most important aspect of the business, perhaps something that you're not quite as confident doing, and do that, rather than thinking, I've got to work my way through all of these courses and only then will I be able to do this. You don't need qualifications to do a cut flower business. Now, if you want to go and study, I suggest doing it part-time in the evenings and weekends. It's what I did. I did my RHS level 2 over a couple of years, and it was great. It really helped me. I didn't do it for the cut flowers. I did it when I was gardening, and it was very useful. But I was learning at the same time, so I didn't wait. I did it in night school, basically. And there are lots and lots of online courses, particularly now by flower growers, where they're sharing all their hints and tips. But don't get into debt trying to pay for them. There are flower growing books that you can buy, or you could ask for them as presents for birthdays or Christmases. You can also do masses of free online workshops and taster courses. So lots of flower growers and florists will do these sort of introductory courses to encourage you to buy their main course. And if you do lots and lots of those, you will pick up quite a bit of information. You might find your horticultural society does some local talks, and in fact it would probably be worth joining that anyway, just to do a bit of networking and meet some new people. You can watch lots of interviews from other growers online. You could get books out of the library, very old school, but I love it because it's such a cheap way of getting new books. Or charity shops, also good places, especially after Christmas. And the other thing you can do is find people whose work you admire and then see if they've got a YouTube channel and watch all the videos that they've done. So you don't need masses of tools and equipment, especially brand new items. You can, reuse and recycle whatever you've got lying around, find things from local Facebook groups, ask around anybody, your friends, if they're getting rid of anything they don't want anymore. I mean, you can even use things like your own toilet roll tubes and old newspapers to make your own cells, especially if you're going to do sweet peas. Now, you don't need a greenhouse, but oh my God, they're very, very useful. So if you can get hold of one, get one for free. People are, I wouldn't say they're always giving them away, but I got my greenhouse for free from somebody that didn't want it in their garden anymore. And I know of another greenhouse that was going for free. So it's quite a bit of labor. It takes about a whole day to take all the panes out, move the actual structure, relocate the panes of glass and put them all back in. And there are inevitable breakages, so you do have to be careful, but you can easily replace the panes with Perspex ones that will be made to measure online. Failing that, see if you could perhaps borrow somebody's greenhouses. So lots of people have greenhouses that they just don't do anything with in the spring. You can even get plastic ones that you make yourself from homeware stores, garden centres. You could use a conservatory. And failing that, you could just pile stuff up on your window ledges, which is not ideal, but the seedlings aren't going to be there for that long. You don't need a fancy website. In fact, you don't need a website at all. I've got one, but I set it up for the gardening. I don't think I've ever used it for the cut flowers. In fact, I don't think I've ever used it for the gardening, actually. I say to people, go and have a look at it, and it give you an example of what I do, but I don't think anybody's ever looked at it. I think social media would be really useful, Facebook, Instagram, and post regularly. And it doesn't matter if you don't have any followers. Just use it as a place to show your work when you meet people. Same applies for business cards. You definitely don't need business cards. So I have some, again, from when I was gardening, but definitely not for the cut flowers. Most people will just want your phone number or to connect with you on social media. Now, if you do want to buy business cards for yourself, there are lots of places online that will design them and print them for you, and they're not wildly expensive. Okay, the next thing is you don't need to have experience in every aspect of the business right when you start off. So unless you've done it all before, there's always going to be a gap in your knowledge, skills, and experience. So don't wait until you know how to do everything before you start. And don't be frightened of marketing. Marketing just literally means telling people about your product. It's not the same as sales. It's just getting your product out there. It's just raising awareness. That's it. There's no magic to it. If you work out your strengths and weaknesses, you'll find this very helpful to see where you need to do a bit more learning. But again, you don't have to get all of your ducks lined up. Just get started and you'll find that things will just slot into place. Maybe you're amazing at sowing seeds, but you've never done marketing, or maybe you're a marketing person who's never sown a seed in their life. Just remember, if you're doing any kind of job now, once upon a time, there was a day when you'd never done that job. And look where you are now. I say again, online courses, not the expensive ones, unless you can afford it. And also get books out of the library, ask your friends for help, and watch YouTube tutorials. You don't need pots and pots of money, although wouldn't that be fantastic? Money doesn't guarantee success or happiness. It won't give you the drive to do well. It won't even give you confidence. It would help enormously to get started in an ideal world, but most of us don't live there. You can buy cheap seed if you can't afford anything more expensive. You can buy perennials in the sales. In fact, sow perennials because they're super easy. Keep sowing every year, and before you know it, you'll have masses of them. And recycle and reuse everything. And my final point is don't compare yourself to others. Just don't do it. There are so many lovely Instagram accounts out there, so many fantastic growers with beautiful setups, lovely walled gardens, level plots, everything south facing. It's all fabulous. People with a background in sales and marketing, lucky people. People who inherit money, or they've married somebody and it turns out their husband's got like 500 acres and it's amazing. Don't believe what you see on social media either. You don't need to get involved in comparing yourself to others. So a photo is a snapshot of the briefest of moments in time. It doesn't show the hours that could have gone into preparing that shot. What you may not see from someone's Instagram is how they got to where they are in the photo. You don't know how wealthy they are, how they got started, what passive or private income they have. And that's important because some growers do have a support network, which means they don't have as much pressure on them as if they're just starting from scratch and they have to support themselves and a new business. So comparisons can inspire you, but they can also really hold you back too. Now, if you can't help yourself from looking, and I'm guilty of this as well, at least limit the time that you spend doing this, because otherwise it can be demoralizing, discouraging, it can make you procrastinate and knock your confidence. I'm reading a book at the moment called Foreign Bodies by Amanda Craig, and one of the characters, Sylvia, says to Emma, "Be yourself, not me." So your entire cut flower enterprise, in whatever form it takes, represents you. So don't compare yourself to others. You just do you. So much of what's online is there to either inspire you or educate you. And even the inspirational stuff can hinder beginners because it's really hard to work out how to get from where you are right now to where the inspirer is. And also, the educators have, quite rightly, decided to monetize their skills, which, when you're starting out, may be beyond your budget. And it's also quite frustrating because you might look at it and think, gosh, if only I did this course, it will tell me how to do everything. And then because you can't afford the course, you think, well, I won't even get started because I don't know what I'm doing. And if I can't get on this course, then I can't start my business. It's totally demoralizing. So if you find any courses out there about overcoming imposter syndrome, about improving your self-confidence, they're the top two that I recommend you do because they are some of the biggest hurdles that you will overcome, that you will have to overcome. The battle actually with your inner voice that says you can't possibly do this. If you can crack that, the rest of the business will be a cinch. All right, so now I'd like to talk about what I think you do need. So the first thing is resilience. So you need to be able to recover from difficulties reasonably quickly and be able to roll with the highs and the lows and channel your energy into finding solutions to problems, because I guarantee things will go wrong. It's life, it's nature, it's outdoors. You will face challenges from absolutely everywhere, sometimes all at once. Mostly the weather. I mean, 2024, we had everything, mostly cold, actually, and wet, but also little tiny heat waves, and then lots and lots of wind and storms. And it literally feels like everything goes wrong all at the same time. Your plants get eaten, seedlings will damp off, things just die. I mean, you will have lots of things go wrong. I guarantee it's not going to be plain sailing. But your ability to recover and get over difficulties will be really, really important. So number 2 is to learn to accept rejection. So you might think, and I know I did this last year, that you've got the most incredible cut flowers ever. Like, who wouldn't want to buy these incredible flowers? And then someone says, no, I don't want them. Or worse still, you send emails out to florists and they just don't even get back to you. So, I mean, that's not even a no. It's you're so not important that we're not even going to reply to you, which is, really hurts. Anyway, life is so much easier if you can hear the word no in the same way as you hear the word yes, and learn to accept rejection. Having a sense of humour is really useful. I mean, bad stuff happens fairly regularly, actually, and if you can laugh it off and carry on, that will be so helpful. Fake it till you make it. Now, this is something you really do need, and I'm talking about confidence here. If you struggle with confidence, and I completely lost mine in 2024, it vanished. didn't see it pretty much for the whole year, then try at least to fake it. So there is a reason that some celebrities create alter egos. I'm not mentioning any names, but there's some very famous female singers who have created alternative personalities, and they go on stage and they perform believing that they are this other person. Anyway, try it, see how you get on. In fact, let me know how you get on. Okay, so here are some things that I think you need that are more practical based. You do need to love the outdoors. And I'm saying this particularly if you're somebody that is thinking about career changing into growing cut flowers, and perhaps you currently work indoors on a computer, or you're spending your days, clean and tidy in a suit, nice car and everything. It will come as a bit of a shock if you launch straight into growing outdoors. From what I know already about growing, you do have to want to get your hands dirty. It's a dirty business out there, and you've got to be prepared for it. I do not spend my days wafting around in a dress with an apron on and a little wicker basket. I have all those things, but when I'm at work, I spend my days in jeans, steel toe cap boots, multiple layers of fleece, scarves, wrist warmers, beanie hats, padded jackets, you name it, I'm probably wearing it. And that's actually probably from about September till May, I'll be wearing all of that. And even my dog has a jumper and a waterproof jacket. You do have to think about who you want to sell to. This is the really boring businessy bit, but it's important. So I hated the idea of having to sell the cut flowers that I grew in my trial beds in 2024. Hated it, even though I actually enjoy sales. And this is partly because I was having to sell my own product rather than somebody else's. When I'm trying to sell my own product, I just wanted to curl up and die. So you need to work out your comfort level and make it work for you. There's no point deciding to sell your cut flowers on a stall in your local market town if you're going to be too scared to actually go and do it. You need to be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. So from what I learnt a little bit about growing cut flowers in my trial beds in 2024, you're doing so many stages of a business that most people will never do this many stages. So you're actually physically making the product from a seed, which could be so tiny you can barely see it. And as somebody who's actually, my close-up vision seems to also be disappearing. So this is a new challenge I'm going to be facing this year. And you're going to end up with a product that you sell. So many individual stages. And I would love you to be an expert at all of them, if that's what you want. But being realistic, there are some things which will come more easily than others. And that's okay. Just have an awareness of that and top up your skills and your knowledge where it's weaker, and ask for help when you need it. So another practical thing that you need is an awareness of your market, for example. You need to be thinking about, am I going to be selling to florists, to individuals, to event people? Are the flowers going to be used for weddings or parties? What style of weddings are happening at the moment? What are brides wanting? What are the trends in events? This is your marketplace. You have to at least have an awareness of what the consumer is thinking about and asking for. All right, here's my list of ideal things that you need. And the first one, and probably the most important, is a regular water supply. So even if you're relying on mains water, which is fine, you will need to have a backup. For example, water butts. Because you might think that, generally speaking, mains water is quite reliable and consistent. I can guarantee as soon as you start a cut flower business, there'll be a burst water main somewhere, your supply will get cut off for days, and you'll be at a really crucial stage of the business. If we have a drought and we end up with all sorts of water restrictions, or again, something goes wrong and the mains gets cut off, you could lose your product, which could be very expensive, not to mention disheartening. So backup is needed. If you've got a shed, a greenhouse, garage, or any other kind of building with gutters, save as much water as you can. Now, if you can't afford lots of water butts when you start out, and I understand that because they're not cheap, see if you can find any on local Facebook groups. See if anybody's giving them away. Sometimes you can find them down at the recycling centres at the tips, or add them to your birthday or Christmas list. Very randomly, I got given steel fence road pins for my birthday last year. Very useful. Nothing to do with water, but the point is you can add these things to your birthday list and you might get them. Second thing that would be ideal is compost bins. As you will know, if you listen to episode 1, I am slightly obsessed with compost bins. If you've got the space, build some with pallets and compost your green wastes so that you have got gorgeous homemade compost to apply to your beds. And the final one, a little bit more serious, I guess, somebody to support you. I mean mentally, emotionally, maybe even physically, because it's a tough business, this. As I've already mentioned, everything is out to eat what you're doing. There are so many different ways that the plants can die or be eaten. Just so many challenges with the weather and the water. And then you've got to sell everything, and it can just get really overwhelming. Now, if you're somebody that spends a lot of their time alone, doesn't have lots of friends, or doesn't want a huge social network, that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying go out there and, force yourself to make friends. It might be better for you to join online groups. I mean, that's what I have done. They've been amazing. There are thousands and thousands of like-minded people out there. You just have to find the right group. And lots of them are on Facebook. And sometimes you just need a support group, people who are like you, that you can say something and everyone will be like, oh yeah, totally understand where you're coming from. And also, God forbid anything happens to you, like you have an accident or you get sick, it would be really beneficial to have somebody at the end of the phone that you can ring, even if it's just to say, I'm stuck, can you go and water for me, or could you collect this, or just somebody to physically step in if the worst should happen and you get stuck. Because it depends obviously how seriously you take the business, but if you're going to be growing products, you don't want something to happen that means they all end up dying or going to waste because there was no one there as a backup. So just bear that in mind when you're getting started. Well, that's it for today. Please join me next time and do subscribe so I know you're listening. My contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you if you have a question you'd like me to answer on the show. Until next time.